Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everyone, welcome to the follow-up to Week 7. We are going to start with how'd we do? How'd you do?
I went 2-1 this week.
Nice.
We were just talking. Luckily, Kyler pulled out, and Mark Andrews too. I started Mark Andrews in that Dynasty League. So, but yeah, that like 44-yard touchdown run from Kyler put me ahead in that one. Lost. I had Mike Evans in my other one, and I needed him to go completely insane, and obviously that didn't happen. And then in the Yahoo League, my team went nuclear, I guess. Put up 157 in that one.
Nice.
There was the only technical mistake I made was putting Tony Pollard in my flex instead of Kareem Hunt. But, you know, and then Mark Andrews as opposed to Zach Ertz. But Zach Ertz still had like 14 points. Yeah. So, you know, but again, I won very comfortably by 20 plus points in that league. So, sitting in third place in the Yahoo League, and I think that win brought me back up to fifth in our shared one, and then that loss from the other one bumped me down. I was in third. That probably bumped me down to 4 or 5. So.
Gotcha.
Yep.
I went, what did I go? 1 and 2. I had a bad week.
No.
Almost went 0 and 3. If it a couple more passes to Andrews, and I probably would have lost that. I won by like 3.2 points. Non-PPR, so he needed 30-some points to beat me. I mean, 30-some yards to beat me. But it seems like when I play Cousins stinks. I sit Goff because Cousins is supposed to have the bigger game, and it goes the other way.
Yep.
In our Dynasty League that we're both in, I scored the second highest points and lost.
Teams 1 and 2 right there in that league.
Yep.
As well.
Yep. First and second place were playing each other, and first lost to second by. I think I only lost by like 17 points or so, or 19.
I thought it was maybe even a little closer.
Maybe it was. It was. Unfortunately, I needed like 55 out of Lamar Jackson last night, and he did his best to try, but left me a little bit short. So, and then in the other one, I keep on dealing with injuries up and down.
A lot of people.
Yeah,
a lot of teams.
It's crazy how. I mean, half of my team right now is pretty much injured.
Yep.
So I'm struggling to find guys, and you know, Elvin Kamara lays an egg, and so it was just not good.
Nope.
Looking at injuries, so we'll start out with Deshaun Watson out for the season, torn Achilles.
Yeah, that one. Watching the replay, you know, they had it the rear camera, whatever you want to call it, looking, you know, staring at the offensive line's butts, and you see him plant and push like he's going to rush it. It looked like it was almost a designed like QB draw, and when he pushed with that, I can't remember if it was his left or his right, and maybe his right leg, and you just see the whole calf just go pop, and then it just, it shook, you know, just jiggled. It was a pretty obvious, immediate, well, there it goes. And that's such a murky situation because of that contract, you know. They still owe him a lot of guaranteed money. I think it's in like the $70 million range for the next 2 years. Like each year, I believe, is like 70-something million dollars that he's guaranteed. So that's a tough one for the Browns, and you know, and Deshaun as well. Because why would you want to play for Cleveland when the fans were cheering? I don't know if you saw that.
No, I didn't.
That at all. They were. No. He got injured when he was down, and I think when he came off, you know, they were cheering while he was down. You know, he's been bad, but that's not in good taste.
No, never. But it is Cleveland, so pretty much the armpit of the country, outside of Newark.
Oh,
No, we always joke that Newark is the armpit of the entire country. Next up, we've got Aiden O'Connell, went to IR, fractured thumb. So it looks like it's going to be Gardner Minshew, and Gardner Minshew came in and just was horrible.
Yeah, I looked at because I saw that, and I looked at Minshew on the waiver wire, just looking to see what everybody's stats were, and it was 3 picks and not even 100 yards or 100 yards, maybe passing.
Well, and it's funny because I think he stepped in and he drove them down for a score of some sort.
Yeah.
And then I didn't pay attention anymore, and apparently he just was horrible from that point on. So
any defense that's playing the Raiders, stream them.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. It could be Carolina.
yeah. Carolina would probably come up with points.
So
next up, we've got Curtis Samuel. He had a shoulder injury. It's unknown how long he'll be out.
Yeah, that really doesn't bear any weight. He hasn't done anything in Buffalo, and obviously with the addition of Amari Cooper, who only ran 12 routes but caught a touchdown and still had decent yardage. I think Buffalo is going to continue to be the Josh Allen, James Cook show, but then add in Amari Cooper there. So.
Yep, agreed. Next up, we've got Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Finger, unknown how long he'll be out, and he was replacing Watson. Hence, their emergency QB came in, and that was Jameis Winston, and Jameis ends up on our waiver wire.
Yep.
Mainly because he's a quarterback.
Yeah, and he's,
more than likely he's going to be the starter at least. And there were questions as to why, unless they are tanking intentionally, why you would have DTR as opposed to Jameis as your backup QB.
Yeah, and I think they changed that this week. I want to say it was this week they switched it to that Jameis was the emergency or the healthy scratch or whatever, and it was DTR as the backup, whereas weeks prior it had been Jameis, and then DTR was the emergency.
Right.
So, maybe he had a good week in practice, and they were like, oh, okay. I mean, but, we also had the same
Got tons of upside.
Yeah, well, it was the same thing last season. They tried throwing DTR out there when Watson was hurt, and then he stunk, and then they put in Joe Flacco and started, really doing good. So, so it'll be Jameis, and I think that's really good for, obviously, David Njoku went crazy. He had like 12 targets, 10 catches, 100-something yards. I mean, David Njoku is the biggest benefactor, I think, of having Jameis Winston in there. So
yeah. Next up, we've got David Montgomery. He had a knee issue and returned.
Yeah, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs had himself a monster game. Monster game. So Montgomery wasn't. I mean, it was a really close game, but Gibbs was playing really well, so he wasn't. It wasn't a true 50-50 split this week, which as a Gibbs manager was really nice because it's frustrating watching, especially when it's Gibbs breaks a 25-yard rush down to the 4.
And then Montgomery rushes it in.
And that's been I don't know, I mean, are the players just soft now? Like you watch, you see it with receivers. They'll catch a big bomb catch, bring it down to like the 5.
I know.
And then they're on the sideline. And it's like...
And I want to watch...
And then the next play is a pass. And it's like, let him finish what he just did.
Well, I want to see them, because maybe defensive backs should do that too.
Where they chase down a receiver and then they go...
Yeah, maybe they should go out too because they're tired.
Yeah, or you get a DB on a edge blitz and he gets a sack and then he gets to take a play off for making a good play. Like,
either for making a good play or maybe he's gassed. I don't know.
I know these teams have all sorts of personnel and packages and formations and everything that they do, but I don't. It just bugs me when they do that. Like I said, so many times Gibbs breaks a run down to the 5 or the 3, and it's time to put David Montgomery in, and here comes our Dan Skipper has reported as eligible, and they go jumbo formation, and it's like let him finish what he did.
No, he did plenty this past week. Next up, we've got Juju Smith-Schuster out for week 8 with a hamstring.
That one hurts for anybody that spent up on him after the big week he had before their bye.
I did play him this week.
Yeah,
which,
so that hurts.
Yeah, that was in the Dynasty League. Had I played someone else, I might have won.
So that one hurts because it was he had a big game, like I said, 2 weeks ago before their bye, and you're like, oh, got a little juice left. They've got nobody else there, to catch the ball because Kelsey really, he's been fine, but hasn't returned to
right
prime Kelsey. So you're thinking you found the number one there for Kansas City, and then gets hurt, and and now he's out. Next week it looks like. So,
right.
Yep.
Then we've got Tyler Huntley, head injury, shoulder injury, unknown how long he's going to be out. May not impact it at all, depending upon if Tua's back.
Yeah, and if Tua comes back, that's going to boost Miami. Obviously, they go from looking like one of the worst teams to, having a top, 6-7 offense in the league.
Right.
So, hopefully, the whole thing with the Tua and them not doing anything to try and maintain any semblance of an offense was a little baffling, but whatever.
Next up, Jalen Polk, head injury, unknown. I don't know if it was a concussion or ruled a concussion. It wasn't apparently
Labeled,
during the game,
yeah.
so
Gotcha.
not a big name there. Jalen Hyatt, cracked rib, unknown how long he might be out. Again, not a big name. Next up, Brandon Ayuk, probably out for the season with a knee.
Yeah, I think it's been
ACL,
confirmed.
MCL.
Yeah, I think it's been confirmed. So
Okay.
out for the season, and then obviously, who's not on here was Debo.
Right. Because
Obviously he's got
sick.
Yeah, pneumonia, and I just saw that he's been released from the hospital, but there's still technically no timetable on a return. So,
Right.
you figure a week, 2 maybe,
Yeah.
potentially. So
Uptick for Juwan Jennings.
but he was banged up, I think,
Ricky
as well.
Pearsall.
He had like 5 or 6 targets. He had like 5 catches.
Yeah, I think wasn't he 3 of 5 or something
like that.
Yeah.
But
involved. He's right. He's going to possibly be the big benefactor there, and actually, I should have put him on our waiver wire.
Yeah, I think him and Jennings, especially if, like I said, if Debo misses a week or 2, I can see George Kittle continuing. George Kittle's been amazing.
Yeah.
With all of these unfortunate injuries and missed games, and obviously, with CMC still out, Kittle's gonna continue his dominance as the number 1 tight end. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Next, we've got DK Metcalf, knee issue, week to week.
Yeah, I've got him in the Yahoo League. They said it's the quote is it doesn't look too bad.
Right.
So sounds like it might just end up being more of a pain tolerance kind of thing. See how he feels. He probably won't practice at all this week is my guess, because I guess technically now he's a veteran. So in the league. So a lot of those guys, when they get banged up, just don't practice.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't.
I heard he was
practice.
calling Aaron Rodgers for ayahuasca treatments.
Oh.
So next up, we've got
Get ready for the next week.
Jaden Daniels got his ribs racked. He's week to week.
Yeah,
That could be impactful. However, Mariota came in and absolutely crushed.
Yeah, Mariota looked good. Well, Carolina. But, yeah, the Daniels one, we were kind of talking beforehand. Again, Yahoo League, so back-to-back players on my team, questionable. There was a report saying that sounds like he's very much in doubt for this upcoming week, which, seemingly the way he's been playing, their franchise quarterback, so I don't blame them.
Right. And ribs can be really painful.
Yeah, so like I said, he, during the game, obviously was already well out of hand. Granted, it was like first quarter when it happened, like pretty early. But, they came in and there's no need for him to play in that game. So,
right.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Mike Evans, hamstring issue, week to week. Probably won't be playing anytime soon. He could actually go on IR also.
Yeah,
from
the
what
way
I
he
heard.
the way he was grabbing at that,
Right.
on that, that
Touchdown pass.
attempted touchdown pass. He was, that was one where you're like, did he completely tear it? Because he was really, really, writhing around on the
Yeah,
ground.
yeah.
So
Speaking of writhing around on the ground, next up is Chris Godwin, out for the season, dislocated ankle. It was pretty much backwards and around and pointing upward while he was laying down. It was pretty gross.
Yep.
I feel for him.
Yeah, I mean he's in a contract season. Last year of his deal, and I think he was going to be sounded like going out in free agency to see if he could get another contract potentially. But
I think he will.
Yeah.
Well,
yes,
it does suck, but I mean,
he'd been playing so good. I mean,
that's the thing.
He was the steal of the draft so far this season.
And that's the thing is that people are going to say, I mean, it was a dislocated ankle. Yeah. And, they'll probably, I don't know if they'll do surgery to correct it, hopefully, because, it'll probably come back out and everything. Yeah. I don't know if there was any breakage, but, I mean, he should be able to come back, from that.
Mm-hmm.
So, next up, we've got our studs. Marcus Mariota, plus 20.65, 18 of 23 passing, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, 11 rushes, 34 yards.
11 rushes for Mariota.
Yeah.
Not bad.
But only 34 yards, so he got 3 yards a carry.
Yeah. Well, there's some starting running backs that are getting 3 yards a carry.
Yeah. There's some that get less. Jahmyr Gibbs, plus 17.1, 4 catches on 4 targets, 44 yards, 15 rushes, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns. When you're running 15 times only and getting 116 yards, you're doing a little bit better than Mariota.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gibbs looked, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, is that combo that they have is, I mean, it's lethal. But again, it is frustrating because, you do get, Montgomery, who missed a little bit of time in that game, and it was all Gibbs, and you can see what can be.
Oh, yeah.
If and again, you don't wish for injuries, but if it were to happen to either one of them, I mean, you're talking RB1 overall while the other one misses time.
Right.
Because that offense is just so potent and, and they use their running back so much that, so it was really nice. Yeah.
Next is probably the guy that you don't expect, which is Rachaad White, plus 16.3, 6 catches on 6 targets, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns, 10 rushes, 40 yards.
Yeah. Rachaad White. Obviously, the 10 rushes for 40 yards, bad. I mean, that's for a carry.
For a carry, but, and you were saying how bad he's been looking rushing the ball.
But he's always been the 6 for 6, 71 yard, not the 2 touchdowns. That's obviously maybe a little fluky, the 2 touchdowns, but one.
Well, Evans was out, and
that's why I think,
and they were really fighting back to get back in that game,
and I think. When you're missing Evans and Godwin, obviously everybody's going to run out and try and scoop up Jalen McMillan or Sterling Shepard. Obviously, Cade Otton had himself a really nice game.
He did.
He stepped up big time in that game. But I think Rachaad White gets upgraded because he's probably going to post this very similar stat line next week.
Yeah, and Bucky Irving actually had
the rushing touchdown,
right?
So I think
and some yards,
and he had a couple of receptions as well. So I think that 1-2 for the running backs gets an upgrade. Missing those 2 key pieces,
right?
They're going to use those guys more.
However, they're going to put 14 in the box. Oh, I mean 8 in the box.
There you go.
I guess you can't play 14, but you can in college. You can bring a 12th guy on. To make sure that you stop the guys from getting the first down, and then it's only a 5-yard penalty and it runs out all the time.
Yeah.
You heard about that, right?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, that was a week or so ago when Oregon beat Ohio State.
Oh. I mean, it's smart.
They ran a 12th guy on.
Yeah, it's like a...
The play ran. They didn't get the first down. They got closer, but now you're down to 1 play.
Yeah.
And you had to... so... Yeah. Next up, we've got Javonte Williams, plus 14.4 points, 3 catches on 3 targets, 23 yards, 14 rushes, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns.
He looked like rookie Javonte in that game. He looked really good, had some juice. That's been a thing over the last year and a half, essentially, is that he just does not look the same. Obviously, he had a pretty bad. It was his knee.
Yep.
And those typically they say the year after.
Right.
You know, it's you get the season you come back from. It's usually typically that season
The second
after
year,
that you truly bounce back, unless you're a freak like Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's been looking good. I mean, Denver, their defense is crazy good. Should be getting Surtain back this week because he had the concussion. Hopefully they'll get him back this week. But, you know, their defense is good, so they don't have to rely a whole lot on Bo Nix.
Luckily.
You know, yeah. So, and like I said, Javonte looked really good. And
Yep.
obviously, you know, I mean, the Saints, the poor Saints, they're another one of those teams that's just absolutely destroyed by injuries, and they lost both of their starting corners in that game.
Yep.
So, you know, yeah, I mean, it's nice to see from Javonte because he was the big question mark, and then the first couple weeks he did not look that great,
Right.
and he's the last 2 weeks has started to kind of come on and look a lot better. So.
Right. Next up, we've got Lamar, only plus 14.4, 17 of 22 passing, 281 yards and 5 touchdowns, 9 rushes, 52 yards. 9 rushes, 52 yards sounds about right. 281 yards is on 17 completions is good. I mean, really good.
He had that, what, like 50-something, 60-yard.
Well, he had a 49-yarder to
He had that big one to Bateman that I thought was like 50-something.
Bateman. I thought 49 was Bateman. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah.
He did have a rushing touchdown that was called back by probably the softest holding call I've ever seen. So, but
killed me, man. Killed me. Moving on to our duds, we've got Jaden Daniels, who again was injured, minus 23.62, 2 of 2 for 6 yards, 3 rushes for 50 yards.
On his way. I think Daniels would have dropped 40 points in that game.
Oh, probably.
Had he stayed healthy because well, I mean, what happened that he had that big run for like 46 yards or something like that, and I think that's the one that he got popped on at the end, and then came in and threw the 2 passes and looked like he was pretty uncomfortable, and that's when he went into the tent, or he went into the tent, came back, threw the 2 passes, I believe, then went into the locker room to get the x-rays and stuff. So
next up, we've got Andy Dalton, minus 16.2, 11 of 16 passing, 93 yards, 2 interceptions, 2 rushes, 3 yards.
Yeah.
They actually brought in Bryce Young for a couple of plays, or for a little bit at the end. It's going to be a race between Cleveland and Carolina and New England for that first draft pick next year, is my guess.
I mean, Cleveland, if Jameis can come in and they can move the ball, their defense is still...
They got Nick Chubb back.
And they got Nick Chubb back. Their defense is still good enough. I mean, I think that the defense was just getting overworked because of how bad Deshaun is. You don't get a whole lot of breaks when he's on the field. So, you know, you get gassed. And, I mean, you know, Cleveland could still win a couple games. It's tough to see Carolina winning much, and it's tough to see New England winning much either. So, I mean, Drake Mays looked pretty good in the last 2 starts.
He has.
You know, that team is, you know, like, I mean, did you see the quote from Gerard Mayo?
No.
He called out the team. He goes, "We're a soft football team. We can't stop the run." He goes, "I don't know how it happened, but he's called his team soft." So
Next up, we've got Deshaun Watson, minus 12.7. He was 15 of 17 passing for 128 yards, 2 rushes, 0 yards.
Yeah.
And then he was injured. Actually, I mean, he was putting up halfway decent stats.
Yep. So no touchdown at that point, and But yeah, then the injury obviously.
Yep.
So.
Next, we've got C.J. Stroud playing against the vaunted Packer defense, minus 12.29. 10 of 21 for 86 yards, 5 rushes for 19 yards. I mean, he rendered Diggs, Tank Dell, Schultz, pretty much everyone on that offense outside of Mixon was worthless.
Yeah, and Mixon had a monster game. I'm surprised he wasn't on he must have been like one off for the studs.
He was a couple off,
which again, that's surprising, but I mean, Stroud, this, you know, without Nico, you know, you don't really have anybody to really try and take the top off. aside. I mean, Dell's fast, but, that hasn't really been his game this season at all. Dell's been a huge disappointment.
Right.
Obviously, Diggs, was not good this week. I don't know what you expect when you try and pick a fight with the half of the Packers roster.
And he
before
says
game.
he's not the bigger man.
Yeah.
You're a putz.
Yeah,
so grow up.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a Packers fan, you look at that stat line and you go, well, shit, we almost lost. It took a break.
Well, that's because we threw the ball away and we muffed a punt and had another one that we were...
too many mistakes. And Love, I like that Love lets it fly, but that first pick was just a horrible decision. But, yeah, so luckily we got out of that one. But, yeah, I mean, Stroud without Nico and, if you get a halfway decent team, and that was
Eric
even
Wilson with 2 sacks.
Yeah, well, that was...
Who?
Yeah. Came in for Quay, right? Quay Walker. He had a concussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, but Stroud last year was, like, top, what was it, top 15 defenses. He had a down week. Bottom 15 defenses are the ones that he destroyed. And he ended up, being a very good fantasy quarterback because of the averages.
Right.
But that was the worry this season where you had to draft him if you wanted him.
Yep. We talked about that.
Was can you expect him to, against the good defenses, put up good numbers?
Look at Mahomes. Mahomes has been one of the worst quarterbacks in football this year.
He played
from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah, he was bad. Yeah, he was bad last week, and there's the only undefeated team left.
Yep. Moving on, we've got Kirk Cousins, minus 12.26. He was 24 of 35 for 232 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions, 1 rush for minus 1 yard. I don't know what to say. I mean, he's got the weapons, and he's just not getting it done.
A couple of weeks ago where he put up the whatever and 4 touchdowns with like 500 yards, 4 touchdowns. I mean, it's in the the possibility of outcomes to have games like that. But I mean, Atlanta, they're just going to be so up and down.
Right.
I mean, I think didn't Bijan end up having a decent game?
I don't remember. Yeah. I didn't get to watch much. I think he
still
camping,
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think he still ended up having a good game. But yeah, the Falcons are they're going to be so up and down that it's going to be really frustrating if you're if you have Cousins.
Waiver wire, Jonnu Smith, which
we'll see.
Yeah, take it with a grain of right. I mean, that's the knock is that Tua doesn't throw to him.
Yeah,
so
Tua. There hasn't been a tight end that's been consistent.
Right.
With Tua, it's only Hill, Waddle, and then whichever running back breaks a 70-yard touchdown. So
next up, we mentioned Jameis Winston. Mm-hmm. So if he's available, or Drake May still. I mean, we mentioned Drake May last week, I believe, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I like Drake and Jameis as streaming options if you bye weeks. Injuries, like I said, Jaden Daniels. I was able to pick up Tua. Sounds like he's good to go. Will be. He starts practice tomorrow, but sounds like he almost for sure playing this weekend. So
next I had Cade Otton.
Yeah, he's definitely. I mean, he'll get a boost as well. Obviously, he Baker seemed to be looking for him.
Right.
Once Evans was up.
He had like 10 targets.
Yeah, it was 8 catches for 100 yards, and he got down to like the 5 at one point. So if you even get half of the yardage and a touchdown, you're really happy. So I think he's going to be super involved going forward.
And the other tight end who was seeing a lot of targets was Will Dissly.
Haven't heard that name in a while.
Right?
Wow.
I mean, they were looking for him left and right.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been able to, I think McConkey. Did McConkey score any points this week? I mean, he was questionable going in.
He had some points. Okay. I mean, he had at least a couple of catches that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, they just haven't. They don't have really anybody. I mean, Quentin Johnston he's a bust. He's a bust. I mean, he's not going to make it. He'll be a journeyman receiver. He'll be bouncing around teams, and injuries pop up. They'll call him and stuff, but they just don't have anybody.
Yeah, they may call him before they call MVS though.
Well, did you see MVS got signed to the Saints? Yeah,
boy.
Saints signed MVS. So.
What a letdown.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Saints fans are going to go. It's like when my buddy called me up from Kansas City, and he goes, "Hey, we signed that MVS. How is he?" I said, "He's horrible." I said, "Why do you think the Packers let him go?"
Unless he's like triple covered, then he's the greatest wide receiver of all time.
Okay.
But if he's wide open,
yeah, he'll drop the ball.
Don't expect him to catch the ball.
Yep. I don't get it. So that's about all we've got for this week.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Coming up, I'll be here. I'll actually be here for a Friday night podcast this week. Sorry, I was camping this past week, and in a couple weeks I actually head to Florida, so we're gonna have to decide what we're gonna do. So we might be taking a week
Show
off.
me how to hook all this stuff up. And
Might have to, but you're gonna have to learn how to edit and all too.
Maybe I can. Maybe I'll give Nick a call and I can hook him up through there, and
there you go.
I could do one or something.
There you go. So that's all we've got for this week. Hope you enjoy the show and have a great week.
Yep.